Hello and welcome to the first in the series called Heroes of Hampton Roads, an audio and video podcast to introduce you to some of God's choicest servants here in the Hampton Roads region of Virginia. I'll be your host, and my name is Pastor Bob Fox. For the past 30 years, I've been trying to build relationships of trust and affection among Christian leaders so that we can work together and pray together and build the kingdom of God together here in our region. And then, hopefully, go to the nations together and tell people all over the world about the wonderful news of Jesus Christ. So in the past 30 years, I've met many men and women whose lives and ministries are so outstanding that I think you should meet them also. So I hope you will listen to the series, be inspired, encouraged, and challenged, and pray for them so that they can continue to serve the Lord and serve us in such remarkable ways. God bless you, and thanks for listening. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Bob Fox, your host, and with me today is Sam Howard, who is doing a wonderful work in the city of Chesapeake with homeless people. It's a ministry, I'll let him describe it, but it's a real model for other cities and for churches on how to engage people who are very needy, don't have a home, don't have very much at all, and how to love them as our neighbors. So Sam, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, good morning, Bob. Thanks for having me. My name is Sam Howard. I'm the director of the CAST program, which stands for Chesapeake Area Shelter Team. So we're a homeless shelter. We operate about 20 to 22 weeks in the winter months. And it's comprised of about 20 to 22 churches, individual churches, who really do all the work. They host the week. It's a 1 week hosting of each church, and it runs from Wednesday to Wednesday. And the church is responsible for everything. We just help facilitate it as a group called CAST. And so the church will provide a hot meal, a place to sleep, and a hot breakfast, and then a bagged lunch. And then so they start at the church approximately 7:30 in the evening. They're bused to this church. They spend the night there, have dinner, have meals, and then they're back on the bus at 6:30 in the morning. So it's not a real cushy lifestyle by any means, but I think our guests appreciate what they're having. And to be honest, I think, as Bob can probably realize from some mission work that he's done, the church probably gets more out of it, and the congregation probably gets as much or more out of it than anybody. You start learning that there's things that are bigger than yourself, and it's just so rewarding to serve. So that's, yeah.
So let me ask you, Howard, before we get into the details of what actually happens in those visits in the churches, tell me some stories of what kind of responses have you gotten from the people, the homeless people, we'll call them, and also the church people who host them. What kind of comments do you usually get?
Well, let me back up a little bit of my whole conversation here. We started about 11 years ago, and we modeled ourselves after something that was called NEST. Some of y'all may remember the Norfolk Emergency Shelter Team. And so we really just copied their format of using churches like that. So that's what we did, started 11 years ago. And as far as what we're hearing from guests and volunteers, you say, Bob?
Right, from both sides, the people hosting and the people being hosted. Okay,
well, I guess it kind of leads you into what our group, the homeless group, our guests are comprised of. And, you know, there's really no one stereotype. It runs the gamut. And for churches to host CAST, it certainly takes, I think, most churches and congregations out of their comfort zone because of these stereotypes. You know, we may have the drug dealers and the drug addicts and the convicted felons on one end of the scale, and then there's a lot of mental health issues. It's a terrible situation in our society as far as mental health, and that's something that we're working on. But we have that. We have folks who've made bad decisions in their life. We have folks that bad decisions are made for them. We have women and children. You know, they're kicked out of the house and they hit them on the streets. And so there's even nights where the police will bring folks to us at night. Wow. And then on the other end of the scale, we have folks that are working. we have folks that are actually working. They're homeless, and they have no place to come home at night. But they're still carrying on a job, and so we do get success stories like that. But we've had folks that have been with us for 10, 12 years every winter season.
Wow,
in one sense, it's sad. It's nice to see them back again. They're doing well, but they still haven't broken that cycle.
yeah. And so the people that are being hosted in churches, I'm sure they appreciate it a lot. They're getting a bed. They're getting as you told me earlier, a hot meal, and what else?
Hot breakfast and a lunch. And to say they're not really getting a bed, Bob, they're getting a thin mat. They're getting about a 2-inch mat and a blanket.
Okay.
They get a clean blanket, and so it's pretty sparse. They end up getting to the church about 7:30. They eat about 8. We try to do a little bit of socializing and conversation with folks, and then lights are out at 10 o'clock. And so, of course, a lot of folks some guests will just come in and go straight to sleep. They're just so beat from being out on the street.
Oh, I bet.
And I got to say that they've got to be the toughest group of people generally that I've ever seen, because they're living, they're just surviving. They're trying to survive, and
women and children on the street. Yeah,
women and children on the street. The children, of course, for the most part, are going to school. The public school systems do provide transportation from wherever they say they're living. It may not be living, even though they're homeless, they designate a spot to pick up these kids for school. So the kids a lot of times do make it to school.
Oh, that's great. Wow. So the church volunteers, they staff this each night, a group of them. Is that correct? Could you tell them what some of the duties are of those volunteers?
Good. I'm glad you asked that, because I'm doing a little plug here. That's the biggest thing we need is volunteers, churches to volunteer. And, our treasurer probably wouldn't be happy with me saying this, but it's not a big money issue. It doesn't cost that much to do one of these operations, one of these hosting a week. Getting churches to be in their comfort zone is a key. The way most of these churches got started was probably helping another church. They start as a helper church, and they'll volunteer to do maybe make a dinner, spend the night overnight, and then they get a little more comfortable and they'll decide to host as a church on their own. So we definitely encourage you to you can certainly contact me. Bob will have the contact information for me, and you can call me, and I'll try to hook you up with another church that might want to need some help. Some of the different jobs. Okay.
Before you go there, though, are you willing to train people from other cities on how to do this? Like have them come along and watch?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So we're starting to learn that because it's not an easy thing for folks to grasp a hold of, we're having like lunch and learn sessions where after church we'll have a group just come in, and if they're interested at all, we can come in and try to leave some of their fears that they might be having about hosting or just volunteering. I mean,
exactly. Oh, yeah. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I hope that churches that are watching this from other places around Hampton Roads, obviously, I guess you could call Sam anyhow if you lived in California or something. But if you're in Hampton Roads, you actually could come and get some face-to-face training from people who've been doing this for years, and go to one of these meetings, one of the Wednesday nights, and just watch or help out and get some hands-on experience. And that could be like a starter batch for your own city.
Yeah. The lady who started this, her name was Trudy Rauch, about 11 years ago. She was pretty diligent. We actually have a handbook. So if you want to read this 60-page handbook, it's a lot of reading, but it will answer any questions that you have. And it'll walk you through the process. So some of the jobs, and on average, it takes about 25 volunteers a night. From the time they're picked up on the bus till the time they leave in the morning, it takes about 25 volunteers per night. And of course, a lot of the churches, it's the same folks every night, but we probably have 100 different volunteers a week. Mm-hmm. So the process would be, some of the jobs would be checking folks in at the bus stop. Now, we breathalyze our guests. It sounds maybe a little harsh or stereotypical, but we do that because we have kids in shelter. And for the most part, we very rarely have any problems with our breathalyzer. We do that. Folks get on the bus. We check their IDs, and they're off to church. And when they get to church, we register them in at church. They are given a blanket and a mat, and then they're given a meal. And so after that, they socialize for a little bit, and then they go to sleep. We have an overnight crew, so we need a dinner group, overnight group, breakfast group, cleanup group in the morning, and most churches. I think we only have one or two churches that have showers, so there really aren't many shower facilities at the church. But I will mention that the city of Chesapeake, about 3 years ago, opened what they call the Resource Center. And it's on Military Highway. Let's see, the address is 1468 South Military Highway. And guests can go there and take a shower. There's washer and dryer facilities, and there's computer facilities that they have access to. So that actually has helped us out a lot, and certainly helped the guests out a lot with having some amenities.
And mention that the facility that the city of Chesapeake is about to open.
Okay, so currently they have what they call the Resource Center on South Military Highway. They're in the process of renovating a building at 2255 Stepping Stone Square. And that building will be much larger. It'll probably be as nice and mostly nicer than most of the church facilities that we have now, because it will have separate men and women shower facilities, 2 showers for the men, 2 for the women. It'll have a family bathroom shower facility. It'll have washers and dryers.
Good.
It'll actually be the new resource center during the daytime, and then they will allow CAST to use it in the evening for a shelter at night.
Well, that's awesome. So as far as the job breakup, CAST does not have to operate the bus or the transportation piece. Is that correct?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. CAST we have very few assets. We own the blankets and the mats, and we own a bus. And so CAST, our 501c3 CAST, will provide the transportation.
Okay.
We provide bus drivers. Now, we're always looking for new bus drivers. You're required to have a CDL with a P endorsement. That's the key. And and it's the only paid position that we have.
Right.
You can certainly contact me if you've got a CDL with a P endorsement and you'd just like to drive, or possibly get a little bit of employment there. We'd love to have you for that.
Okay. Can people volunteer to do that also on a
Yes,
on a
we have a
rotating...
few bus drivers. Yep, a few of our bus drivers do it gratis. Yep.
Yeah, there's probably some city school bus drivers who would probably do that on a rotating basis.
Yep, we do have a lot of city school bus drivers. Getting bus drivers in the morning for the morning route is the hardest, because they're driving a school bus. But in the evening,
in the evening, right?
They can do it. Yep. It's only about a 45-minute proposition.
So do you have any sense of how churches feel about this? The volunteers in particular, after they're finished doing, do they feel just exhausted? Do they feel happy they did it, or what?
Well, I'm giving you the sales pitch for CAST, but I will tell you, yes, at the end of the week, yeah, you're exhausted, but I think you're very fulfilled that there's no doubt what you did was important and needed.
Right.
I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road when you see what's needed out there. Yeah. I think
well, it's an opportunity for us to love our neighbor in a very necessary area of our region, of our city. Without CAST, do you know of any churches who are ministering to the homeless effectively in Chesapeake without being part of CAST?
I don't know of any, Bob. Last year we had 2 new churches that jumped on board and did a great job. Every year we usually get 1 or 2 new churches, and sometimes we'll lose one church because of whatever reason. Their pastor leadership changes, or they become a small congregation. And like a lot of congregations, they're older. It's an older group. But we're always looking for new churches to host.
So when they come into the church and they have their meal at 7:30, and they go to bed at 10, church people who are there, the church volunteers, they can talk with them. They can pray with them if the person wants some prayer. They could sing some songs. They could share the gospel. Is that true?
Absolutely. And each church is different, and we encourage them. The church is on their own. They can do as they please. Some churches will give haircuts. We've had volunteer groups will come in and give haircuts. They'll do pedicures and manicures. We've had that happen. Certainly, we have prayer groups. We'll encourage, and we do take youth volunteers. We do ask that if your child is coming in to volunteer, that the parent be with them. But since we do have children in shelter, the kids will come in and they'll play games with the other
Oh,
kids and
wonderful.
socialize, and even the adults will too. They'll play a game with the other because of the stigma of homelessness. You know, when you're walking down the street and you see a guy walking your way he looks like he's homeless on the sidewalk, you walk to the other side of the street just to stay away from him, and they sense that,
Right.
and so folks don't want to socialize with a lot of these homeless folks, and so I think they're happy to basically just to be treated as normal people, which is exactly what they are.
So do you think that this gives, after a church has volunteered to do this, do you think it gives the people in the church a bigger heart for needy people?
I think it does. Absolutely, I think it does.
Yeah.
It certainly makes me individually feel that way. It certainly makes you more thankful for what you have, and since I think it makes you feel more appreciative of what you have, it does make you want to share what you have with others.
Well, I really admire what you and Trudy Rauch. We need to honor Trudy. Trudy is really the founder of this whole movement, including this wonderful website that you have called Obelisk. Tell us a little bit about Obelisk.
I'm not as involved with the Obelisk resource website as Trudy is, but there is this website called Obelisk that you can go to, and I guess it's a lot like yours, Bob, the 757 Church, that just lists various resources that folks can have, whether it be a food pantry, some different types of counseling or therapy that might be available. Like I said, I'm not really plugged into exactly what's on these websites because Trudy ran that and she's still running it. But that's the other aspect of Obelisk. CAST is a division of Obelisk. It's you're required to have a 501c3, and that's our group.
Well, as a website person, I can tell you Obelisk, and I've been around here about 30 years, it's the best single website in Hampton Roads for food, clothing, and shelter resources. There's nothing that even comes close to it. They spend a lot of money and a lot of time, and they have a staff that oversees it and everything. I'm really impressed with that. I've told Trudy many times she got a home run when she did that website. Every city should have a website like that. It's called ABBA, like Abba Father, LIST, obelisk.org. And if you haven't been there, and especially if you're in church leadership, you should check it out.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Bob. I'm going to mention one other thing, real quick plug. You mentioned clothing. There's a clothing shelter in Chesapeake called the Great Exchange. Okay. It's on Hillwell Road, and it's run by the Bridge Christian Fellowship Church.
Oh, yeah, Steve Morgan's church.
Steve Morgan, it's his old, he's retired now.
He's retired now.
There's a new pastor.
I know them, yeah.
So you know Steve. So if you've ever tried to even think about doing a clothing shelter, you'll know how much work it is, how much space is involved, and just how tedious it is. Well, Katie Morgan, Steve's wife, runs this clothing shelter, and she has 3 double-wide trailers full of clothes that she sorts by gender and size and season. Anyhow, and it's open to anyone who wants to come and use it. So I just want to give a little plug for the Great Exchange.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, Kempsville Presbyterian has a clothing. Of course, Harvest down on the Kempsville Road, Harvest Assembly, they have a huge, it's called the House of Blessing. They do food.
Yep.
They may do clothing, but they do a lot of food.
They do a lot of
food. But these
are
things that the churches need to know about so they can help people.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, do you have any other comments or suggestions for churches who want to get involved in this kind of ministry?
Bob, you can have my contact info up there. Feel free to email me or call me. Our season starts November 20th, and we run through, I believe it's April 15th this year. We do have some open weeks unfortunately, we have 3 open weeks within that time frame that's available. But yeah, feel free to contact me. And if you're not able to host, you could possibly even help another church. And even if you're not a church, if you're a civic organization, a YMCA, or whatever kind of group, we can certainly get you plugged in.
That's a great opportunity, I think, for churches and civic organizations to make a contribution to the people in Chesapeake who are in a difficult situation. And I wonder in the years to come if some of those people will really get their lives together because they saw the love and the service that was given to them week after week, and as you said, year after year for some of these folks. That's a tremendous testimony that I'm sure they appreciate and won't forget.
Well, I know, like I said, these folks are trying to survive. So I think, the meal and the place to sleep is probably paramount to them. But, we certainly try to show God's love. And I think they do feel that. They certainly express it. So I think we're just trying to do both.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Sam, and sharing this wonderful Christian ministry. It just so much reminds me of Luke 15, where about the prodigal, or not the prodigal, but the Good Samaritan. I think it was good. Is it Luke 15? Where this guy's lying on the road and the Samaritan comes along, picks him up and takes care of them. And we're commanded to love our neighbors. It's not a suggestion. So we see these people, but we ourselves as individuals think we're powerless. How can we help them? But here's a great way as a church or organization, we could work together with other organizations and really make a difference to love our neighbors. So thank you, Sam, for what you're doing. God bless Trudy Rauch and her family for beginning all of this. And look forward to seeing more people get involved with what you're doing. God bless you. All right, thank you. Sure. All right, bye-bye. Well, thanks for listening to my interview with Sam Howard today, folks. And now I'm going to show you some video that I found online by some local TV channels about CAST. And then I'll end this podcast with some printed information on your screen that you might find helpful. Thanks again, and I hope some of you will consider getting CAST going for your church in Chesapeake if you live there, becoming a part of that, or else starting something similar in the city where you live to take care of homeless people during the winter in particular. Here we go.
From the extreme heat of the summer to the bitter cold of the winter, the elements can be brutal for people with no place to stay. And today on Making a Mark, Ashley introduces us to a woman who's providing shelter for the homeless throughout Chesapeake.
It's churches in Chesapeake that have partnered with CAST to shelter the homeless from November until the first part of April.
CAST is the Chesapeake Area Shelter Team, and that's where Penny Ash says she found her calling 6 years ago.
So I went to a meeting at Great Bridge Baptist Church and met with the CAST coordinator at that church, and I was hooked. I just loved the people, I loved the ministry, and I've been in it ever since.
Penny is now the volunteer coordinator for CAST. The desire to serve came from a place that hits home.
When I was young, my mom, every time she would give stuff away, donate stuff, it was always to the Union Mission. And then I learned a little bit later in life that she had been homeless herself.
So for Penny, it's about more than just providing a warm bed or a hot meal, but offering friendship, peace, and even hope.
The guests, they felt like they were loved. And that's what it's all about, is just making them feel better. Just feel better.
Ashley Smith, 13 News Now.
We can't solve the problem. We can provide 2 hot meals and a safe place to stay.
Ann Heltzel wanted to help people by joining the Chesapeake Area Shelter Team called CAST, in which church leaders band together to volunteer their spaces as overnight shelters. But this year, the shelters team's effort to create a safe space for people in need is falling short.
We have 2 weeks coming up that we don't have churches who have volunteered to participate in CAST. It grieves us that, okay, you have a place to stay now, but next week you're not going to have a place to stay, and that's difficult.
Now CAST is asking for churches and volunteers to step up between December 6th and the 20th to make a difference in someone's life.
It's what we do as human beings, is take care of each other. It's what we want to be known for.
First, I'd like to thank the City of Chesapeake for giving us this opportunity to get the word out about CAST. CAST is the Chesapeake Area Shelter Team. We're a homeless shelter. We operate about 20 weeks out of the year during the winter seasons. This is our 11th year, and really the reason we wanted to get this word out is we need about 7 more churches or organizations to help us host CAST. Each church hosts for 1 week, and so right now we have 15 churches hosting, and we would like to have about 7 more so we can get 22 weeks, which will cover most of the cold season. Churches are a really good candidate for hosting because they usually have the facility that can do it. It's nice to have a kitchen that you can cook in. As far as volunteers, you need about 25 volunteers a night. And those volunteer positions range from working at the bus stop to cooking the meals, serving the meals, spending the night. Now CAST does we provide our own bus. We provide our own bus and bus drivers. We always need bus drivers though. So if you're able to have a CDL with a P endorsement, that's what we need for bus drivers. So we've had some other organizations besides churches, the YMCA, various high schools have used their National Honor Society, cross-country teams, different other groups have actually, some of these high school kids have come in at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and helped to clean up. So it's a good opportunity for those folks too.
You know what, it's humbling to do this kind of work because you're put in a position where you're trying to help people who are less fortunate than you, and it makes you really count your blessings, you know, that by the grace of God, you're not there. And you're in a position that you can help. You know, people are very generous. And if they have the money or the donations that they can make, they are more than happy to do that. I've just found so much generosity in this program. And it's a way to teach your children also. And that's what we like to really encourage, is to bring your young teens in and they learn what it is to serve, what it is to appreciate what they have.
We feed folks a dinner, a breakfast, and then a bag lunch. And for 7 days, approximately 40 to 50 people, approximately $1,500 would be needed to pay for all the food for that. And if a church doesn't have that type of financial capability, we have scholarship money that will help provide that. So yeah, if you'd like to get in touch with me and learn a little more about this, and another good way to learn this is just to shadow another church and see how they're doing. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. But you can reach me at Sam Howard. It's sam@obelisk.org, and it's never too late to get in touch with me.